Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so excited to jump into this with you because today we are embarking on a really fascinating journey into the hidden mechanics of business survival and financial literacy. We're going to peel back the curtain on how businesses actually operate from a financial perspective, going way beyond just the basic numbers you'd see on a spreadsheet.
So let me ask you a question that keeps a lot of entrepreneurs up at night. Are you really making a profit? It sounds like a simple yes or no, but you'd be amazed at how many seemingly successful businesses are actually bleeding cash behind the scenes and the owners have absolutely no idea. How does that even happen? Well, it all boils down to how we define costs.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover accounting versus economic costs, fixed and variable costs, calculating those per unit costs, breaking down the famous U-shaped cost curves, and finally connecting production directly to cost. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Accounting versus economic costs. Let's figure out what real profit looks like.
To really wrap our heads around this, let's bring in a hypothetical entrepreneur. We'll call him Mr. X, and he just started a brand new business. Right out of the gate, we have to contrast two very different types of expenses he's dealing with. First up, explicit costs. These are your classic out-of-pocket expenses, the stuff you actually get a physical receipt for, like wages, raw materials, or the electric bill. But then we have implicit costs. These are the hidden, estimated costs for resources Mr. X already owns. We're talking opportunity costs here. And honestly, this is exactly what so many entrepreneurs notoriously ignore. And man, it can be a fatal mistake.
Let's actually run the numbers to see why this is so huge. Say Mr. X quit a rock-solid job paying him $10,000 a month just to start this firm. If we only look at his accounting profit, which is just total revenue minus those out-of-pocket explicit costs, hey, his business looks fantastic. It looks super profitable. But to find his true economic profit, we have to subtract the explicit costs and his implicit costs. We literally have to subtract that $10,000 a month salary he walked away from. Economic profit shows the real health of the firm because it factors in what he gave up. If his accounting profit is, say, only $5,000 a month, economically speaking, he is actually operating at a loss. Crazy, right?
Moving on to Section 2, Fixed and Variable Costs. Time to pay the daily bills.
So, transitioning from just starting the business to the gritty reality of actually running the thing day to day, we can toss Mr. X's total costs into two main buckets. First, we've got total fixed costs, or TFC. These are completely unavoidable, totally regardless of his output. If his factory produces exactly 0 units this month, he still has to pay the rent and his administrative staff's salaries. Then we have total variable costs, or TVC. Now, these vary directly with output. Producing more goods means buying more raw materials and burning more electricity. So our fundamental short-run formula here is simple. Total cost equals total fixed cost plus total variable cost.
Now, what is really fascinating is the unique inverse S-shape these costs take on when you graph them out. Why does it look like that? What actually tells a story. At the very beginning of production, as Mr. X adds workers to his floor, their productivity increases. That means his costs are going up, sure, but at a decreasing rate. But eventually, as he keeps scaling and packing more and more variable inputs into that same fixed factory space, productivity is going to start to slow down. And when that happens, his costs begin to increase at an increasing rate, shooting straight upward.
Section 3. Calculating per unit costs. Figuring out the cost of just one extra unit.
All right, so we know our total costs, but how much does it actually cost to make just one extra unit? To figure that out, we have to define marginal cost. Marginal cost is simply the additional cost a firm takes on to produce exactly one extra unit of output. Basically, it's the change in total cost that happens when you change output by a single unit. And here's the kicker. Marginal cost is absolutely the most critical metric for Mr. X when he is deciding whether or not to scale up production. He needs to know exactly what that very next unit is going to cost him out of pocket.
To find our other per unit costs, we just need some really basic division. Don't worry, the math here is super straightforward. We're just dividing our totals by the quantity produced, which we'll call Q. So, average fixed cost is just total fixed cost divided by Q. Average variable cost is total variable cost divided by Q. And average total cost, or just average cost, is total cost divided by Q. Boom! Now we've got our vocabulary locked down before we start looking at the actual curves. Section 4. The U-shaped cost curves. Let's visualize the economics.
So why exactly do these per unit cost curves always look like a giant U? Well, think about the marginal cost curve.
Notice how it swoops down and cuts perfectly through the absolute lowest minimum points of both the average cost curve and the average variable cost curve. That is not a coincidence. It is a mathematical certainty. Think about it like a GPA in school. When the cost of the next unit is less than your average, it pulls the whole average down. But the second the cost of that next unit is higher than the average, it pulls the average right back up.
But let's be clear, this U-shape isn't just some random math trick on a graph. It's actually driven by a foundational economic principle, the law of variable proportions. In the short run, Mr. X's factory space is strictly fixed. As he adds more and more variable inputs, like labor, to that fixed space, he's eventually going to hit diminishing returns. The first few workers are incredibly efficient, but give it time, and the factory floor gets way too crowded, people start getting in each other's way, and the cost to produce each additional unit starts climbing right back up. That is what creates that distinctive U-shape.
Section 5. Connecting production and cost. Let's hit the factory floor.
Let's connect these abstract financial curves directly to the physical reality of Mr. X's factory. There's a direct mathematical inverse relationship here. Assuming the wage paid to workers, let's call it W, stays constant, marginal cost equals that wage divided by the marginal product of labor. Similarly, average variable cost equals the wage divided by the average product of labor. What does all that mean in plain English? Basically, as a worker's physical productivity goes up, the financial cost to produce each unit goes down. They move in exact opposite directions. When we put these concepts side by side, we see something we call the mirror effect. The physical production curves, which show the productivity of labor rising and then falling, are literally the exact upside-down reflections of the financial cost curves, which dip down and then climb back up. It is a perfect mirror image.
To pull a quote directly from our source material here, the MC curve is the mirror image of the MPL curve, and the AVC curve is the mirror image of the APL curve. It's brilliant, because it proves that a firm's financial cost optimization isn't just some isolated thing happening in an accounting office. It is essentially just a reflection of physical production efficiency on the factory floor. If you want to fix your costs, you have to optimize your actual physical production first.
So I want to leave you with this thought to chew on. Based on the law of variable proportions we just walked through, at what exact stage of production should your hypothetical business operate to truly optimize costs? If adding too few workers leaves you inefficient, and adding too many makes your marginal costs absolutely skyrocket, where is that perfect sweet spot on the U-curve for you? Think about how this mirror effect applies to the ventures in your own life. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and remember to always question the true costs behind the numbers.